Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fast Forward Podcast. I'm Joanna Jordi from Fast Forward 2030 Lebanon. Our guest today is Ramy Boujawdeh, an entrepreneur with a background in agricultural engineering. He's a founding member of Rural Entrepreneurs and the Deputy General Manager of Berytech since 2014. As such, has played a leading role in developing the startup ecosystem in Lebanon, creating businesses that flourished in Lebanon and expanded in the MENA region, ones that actively work on implementing sustainable development goals. Ramy, welcome to Fast Forward.
Thank you so much, Joanna. It's so exciting to be on this session discussing about Fast Forward 2030 and SDGs and entrepreneurship.
Great. So what motivates you to engage in cultivating the startup ecosystem in Lebanon?
Well, you know, Joanna, we have amazing talent in Lebanon, and many of them are driven by ethical, impact-related activities. And I think the entrepreneurship track for supporting, the society, economy, the environment are key in order to create more jobs, better and stable future, and an equal opportunity future. So I think using the talent of the youth, retaining them in the country and helping them create a better future for Lebanon is what drives me and drives the team at Berytech to put the efforts there.
What were the most rewarding instances that you've had in your experience cultivating startups?
You know, it's different moments. Sometimes it's seeing the teams, at the idea stage working in a hackathon, driven, not sleeping, trying to get where they want to be and doing something. And another moment is when we see them, launching a product and having traction for their solution. We've had a number of those startups that have reached to a point where, they are sustainable, they are growing, they are attracting, potential supporters for their startup. They are joining or winning international competition. We've had one of our startups, which is Fabricate, who won a global competition, the Global Social Venture Competition, for example. That was a big moment of pride for us because it was a global competition. They put the flag of Lebanon high, and it helped them also take more credit of what they're doing and how to scale. So this was, for example, another moment of pride that I recall extremely well.
Plus, what is interesting is that they've been able to integrate circular economy models in their practice, which is remarkable.
Correct.
So what would be your vision in the potential of those startups in creating businesses that apply circular economy?
Circular economy is core to the future of this planet. And we've been, cursed with consumerism for the last, I would say, 50 plus years. I would say even more than 50. I think since World War II, consumerism has become a trend. You are as good as the new car that you have, the new gadget that you have, the bigger the house you have, the more furniture you have. And this have put a lot of stress on the planet. Has put a lot of stress on the human being because you would compare him if he has a better car than the others, if he owns asset more than the others, if he buys the latest technology more than others. So it creates disparity between society, and at the same time it creates a lot of waste. So circularity is core to the economy, to using the excess fees or money to do good for the planet, to good for other human beings. And I think we've been cursed with the whole, industrialism where an item should not last long so that they can buy the next item. So I think we're seeing a reverse trend. And in a country like Lebanon, where it's hitting one of the worst crises in the world, looking at circular economy as a way to, become a bit more resilient to the crisis, put more effort on, addressing economical challenges and create jobs, I think there's a lot of potential here. Waste is a tremendous resource because we'll continue doing waste. Even if we reduce it, there'll always be waste. But if we can valorize waste, there's so much that could come out of it. Better environment, more jobs, cleaner processes, less CO2 emissions, and opportunities for people to be creative in the way they reuse it, whether it's compost for agricultural purposes, or valorization of glass or metal or paper or plastics. All of this could have a tremendous impact on job creation across all layers of the economy, and the population. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And here we're talking about not only about waste valorization, but everything that could be reused, reduced, or recycled. There are business models that could be there. So I'm hoping that this would be a wake-up call for the society, and an opportunity for people who would see it and build on it ventures and solutions for a better environment and a better society, a better economy.
What are the milestones of the evolution of the startup ecosystem in Lebanon?
Well, the startup ecosystem in Lebanon started back in 2002. I think it was. Entrepreneurship has not been trendy in the past. When you say I'm an entrepreneur, people usually would say, okay, you're a crazy person. I think the whole drive with the US entrepreneurship and then the global entrepreneurship, trend has become a trend of life, or a way of life, and people got excited about it. And I think it's a good thing. But Berytech started its first incubator in Lebanon in 2002. I think we were the first to do something that was, focused on this. It was focused on the ICT sector, and continued to be. Berytech continued to be an ICT-focused entrepreneurship support ecosystem. And with time, other players came on board. So we had Al City, we had Bader, we had Kafalat for this, and Berytech with that started building up, different products, different services, from funds to co-working spaces, and so on. And so did a number of other players. So we have players that were local, players that were regional. We've had incubators across the coast. So we had Biat in the south, in the north. We had South Peak in the south that were incubators of the chambers of commerce. Then we've had grassroots organizations like Tripura Entrepreneurship Club, Rural Entrepreneurs, and there were a number of accelerators that came up after Circular 331, along with a number of funds. So the ecosystem was on a ramp up of growth. We started seeing verticals. There was Smart Eza that came in as well. Universities started having incubators and accelerators. And then the economic situation hit us, and we started seeing some of them diluting or vanishing or being replaced by NGO-driven programs and so on. And we started seeing activities like what you're doing at Fast Forward that are pushing for a bit more activities for this. Social and circular and green economy have been in the trend in Lebanon for quite some time. Key players in that space are Make Sense, who are working heavily on this space. CWAS, Middle East, is working heavily on this space. Berytech for sure through its different programs, Impact Tries, the Act Smart program with the different accelerators and verticals on clean tech and agri-tech. We've been actually, Berytech have been managing the global social venture competition since, I would say, even before 2013. So we've been in that space for quite some time, but I think it's time now to do more, to do much more on that front.
So what are the biggest constraints facing startups today in Lebanon, and what are the biggest opportunities?
Constraints are related to funding and addressing the uncertainties. I would say, with the fluctuation of the dollar, the real value of the dollar, how to price, how to address things, how to adjust consumerism and needs, how to prioritize, how to deal with brain drain. It's a major concern in Lebanon. We're losing a lot of our brilliant youth to the outside. And I cannot, blame them. Everybody has to find his own way. So these are constraints. The political, economical uncertainties are definitely a constraint on somebody wishing to start a business. But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of people who have no option but to stay here, either because They have, you know, roots that they cannot uproot, you know, family, friends, members, assets, etc. And they do not want to, they cannot leave the country. And there are people that are keen on staying here, which is even, you know, more exciting. And many of those people have are either in a position or a job where they don't feel that they are remunerated well, or they have lost their jobs, or they are in a place where they see that they could add value to the ecosystem. And I think this is an opportunity for people to move into an entrepreneurship track where they could build their own future. So the opportunity lies in new business models, in optimizing the way, you know, we do things, revisiting our way of life. I think Lebanon has to accept the reality that we would have a long, heavy 10 years of change to get back to where we were 2 years ago. You know, that we've had with, I think if we go back to our current minimum wage, we're below, you know, we're below poverty line when it comes to the value of it. And there is a need for social and circular economy models. There's a need to move from, you know, donor-driven, you know, charity support ways to building economical model that could grow. The productive sector, whether it's agriculture or industrial, have to take positioning, but what we're hoping to see is to see them filling up this in a sustainable way. So looking at industries, at agriculture practices that are sustainable, equitable, and scalable. So I think these are the opportunities for people. I go back and say energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency is core with the crisis that we have. Looking at waste and its valorization is another one. Looking at you know, local production, looking at sustainable production of items, goods, looking at two ways of retailing, bulk purchasing, looking at sharing economy, using equipments between people, looking at transport as a major concern for Lebanon. You know, sustainable transport is a major concern with the fuel prices going up. We really need to look at revisiting our way we move around, whether it's you know, sharing a ride, like we've had earlier with one of our startups in the country called Polo, for example, or looking at Hadir, which is one of our startups that looking at optimizing routes of buses. There are lots of ways to optimize on transport. So sorry, I talked too much, but it's exciting to look at opportunities and see light somewhere where people could really make a difference.
Definitely so. We must keep hope and we must keep fighting for what is valuable in our country, which is our human resources, our talent, and the resources that we have that we could do our best with. So how does the government influence the ability of startups to innovate, and how can startups influence governance?
Well, government is at different levels. So you have the local government, which is the municipal government, and you have the national government, and you can work somehow with the middle government, which is the muhafaza or the qada. Usually, most of the activities happen either at the local level, municipal level, or at the government level. And we've seen, you know, at the local level, there's a lot of opportunities, especially when you talk about social entrepreneurship, for municipalities to back up some of those solutions, you know, absorb them, promote them. We've seen municipalities that have looked at, you know, creating opportunities, pushing economic development in their communities, facilitating practices. And I think this is wonderful. We've seen advanced, you know, municipalities really looking forward with the right leadership to take it forward. And I hope that we'll get more and more of those municipalities in the country where the municipality really plays an active role in economic development of their community, and not just services of cleaning roads, you know, organizing traffic and so on. So I believe municipalities have a major role to play. What we need to see at the level of entrepreneurs or citizens is getting them more involved in municipal work, and maybe getting some facilitation of roundtables, discussions, communities, councils that could influence that. Now, at the level of government, there's a lot that could be done. And I don't know if our current government is open or willing to do any of that. I think they're in crisis mode and they don't know from where to start. But the ministries and the government have different roles to play. When we talk about ministries, especially in entrepreneurship, we're talking about ministries that are in the productive sector. So we're looking at ministries of agriculture, industry, economy and trade, environment. We're looking at the Ministry of UMSAR that has been focused on digitization. We're looking at technology ministries. We've had one once and did not go telecom to facilitate digitization and data processing. There's a lot that could be done, whether through facilitating services, tax reduction, revisiting laws for startups to be able to scale. One of the things that we've been trying to lobby for example, is a social entrepreneurship status and a social enterprise, which requires some sort of a new law that would allow them to raise grants on top of making profit and balancing their balance sheet, which is not there, creating facilities for them to be able to work somewhere between an NGO and a business. And I believe social enterprise have a major role to play in terms of stabilizing and growing the economy rather than just focusing on NGOs. I think each one of them have a different role. But if we can get that we can get a lot. So at the level of the government, there's a lot to be done. So open ears, open actions, and so on. But we know that the government is in crisis. The employees are, questioning their role, their salaries, their position, and their leadership. At the same time, there is a distrust between the citizens and the government and its, ministries and public servants. So there's a lot to be done there, and we're hoping that as soon as reform will hit, that trust will be built again, efforts will be put in, and the energy, the positive energy to make change will be, from both sides. So that's all.
Yeah, we really do hope so. In your point of view, what are the sectors that require the most development in Lebanon at the moment?
The sectors that require the most development, we've highlighted some of them earlier, Joanna. So transport is a major one, electricity is another one, agriculture is a major component that could create a lot of, addressing a lot the economy, productive sector, production, replacement. Now, if you move on the social side, there's also a lot to be done. We're moving into a poverty level that we have never seen before. We're seeing a separation of classes that we have never seen before. We're seeing a middle class that is moving to poverty line, and they are not used to it. So they don't know how to react. They don't know how to do it. So social stability is another space of addressing. Violence comes with poverty, so there is work to be done there as well. So when I look behind you and I look at the SDGs that are there, between no poverty, food availability, equal rights. There's so much that we will lose while going into a crisis. So I think people need to be aware of this. People that are in a bubble of safety need to consider the people that are, going downstream into poverty, and the people that have the intellectual knowledge and so on that are moving into poverty because of the crisis. They need to hang on and see how they can move out of it without letting go. And we have a role as organization, whether it's Berytech, Fast Forward 2030, or any other organization in this space, to really act upon trying to lift up, make it more resilient. And I know it's tough, but if everybody who can put the energy there, I think we could do some changes and hopefully get others to follow.
Definitely. So it's the wealth gap that is the most urgent thing to address at the moment.
Correct.
What are the biggest challenges that face startups in implementing sustainable development goals?
Well, sustainable development goals are holistic and they need to be applied top down and bottom up. So bottom up alone would work, but having a top down policy approach would make it faster. And it could come through, doing business with cutting corners can get you big rewards. So if you underestimate your environmental impact, if you underestimate your gender equality, if you underestimate your employee, decent work environment, you can make big money and fast money. And if you don't have regulations that would ensure that those practices are not happening, if you have proper procurement levels at the level of governments and big institutions, then you can balance this and ensure that whoever is doing business with an ethical and correct way. So the people who are responsible for pushing it top down are the people in power, and these are large corporations, governments, and so on. And the people who can adapt and push for change are the people who are providing services. So these are our startups, our SMEs who are providing. So they need each other. And I think this is where the gap needs to improve. Another thing that we need to look at is that we are interconnected, and industries are no longer solo industries. Agriculture is no longer agriculture. Agriculture is now tech and engineering. So how much are we integrating our youth, our productive sector to talk to each other? How can we link systems together? How can we optimize on them? How can you use big data to improve the way we do things? So there is a lot to be done. Integration of knowledge, integration of showcase, openness, and breaking silos is a major concern. But I think leadership and governance is even more. So once you have the leadership to pull, and buy services and ask for new standards and ask for things, people will respond. It's very difficult for a startup that's doing everything to produce, healthy food or organic food or sustainable textile or reuse of things if there is no will and interest from the other side to facilitate that and make it mainstream. So mainstreaming sustainability should be an agenda point for Lebanon and beyond.
So basically, it's balancing between financial gain and integrating shared values.
Correct.
Your advices to emerging entrepreneurs?
Okay, so entrepreneurship is not easy. That's the first thing that I would say. But it could be, some people think that entrepreneurship is a skill set or a genetic requirement. Now, I would say that you need to have, some appetite for risk. So for entrepreneurship, you need to have an appetite for risk. If you don't have an appetite for risk, it's tough to be an entrepreneur. But it's not about having an idea. It's about, making the idea happen. So the first thing I would say for people who are joining an entrepreneurship program or want to start something, don't be afraid to share your idea. There's no need to share your, intellectual property or the secret sauce or the engineering behind the solution. But share the idea, validate the idea, because a lot of times we meet with people that are in love with the solution. They're in love with the machine that they've done. They're in love with the way, they want to make things happen, but they have no clue where is that. And this is typical for, engineers, technologists, scientists that are, passionate about what they have created. But we always tell them, go back to the drawing board, go back and talk to people, validate that what you're working on makes sense to the people that are painful, and don't create the problem, look for the problem and try to work on it. So working on the problem, being in love with the problem and not the solution, and validating that what they're doing makes sense in terms of business, environment, and sustainability makes a lot of sense. Be resilient. You're going to face difficult, a difficult road. There are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be people fighting you. There are going to be people not believing in you. So ensure that you surround yourself with people that are, willing to listen, support, mentors, coaches, programs that will be there for you. And there is many programs, and there are many programs in the country that are there to support. So do look for them. They're all up over social media. Ask, look at websites, follow things. Entrepreneurship could be nurtured. So don't think that you go in with yourself. We've seen a lot of entrepreneurs being transformed over time with the knowledge that they've done, with the maturity that they get with time. So don't be afraid to drive your thing. And if you're passionate about change, if you're passionate about the problem that you're dealing with, drive. There'll be definitely people ready to support you. And there are funds to get you started. So look for them. More and more is happening. So don't lose hope, ask for help. Don't take the journey on your own. Find a team and drive.
Lovely. So being open to getting feedback, research and development as well.
Correct.
Ramy, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I invite you to apply to Flash Forward, a competition we're launching if you're an emerging entrepreneur. So from Fast Forward 2030 Lebanon, let us honor our human and natural heritage to create the best life conditions possible for our future generations.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Looking forward to participating in the event and supporting the teams that will be there. Keep it up. Thank you. Fast Forward 2030 Lebanon.
Thank you.